He has the latest sports news, expert analysis, award-winning commentary, and a pocket full of cabbage.
Can you give us an indication why?
Just in case there's a sauerkraut emergency.
Let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Speaking of lawmaking, this might be a good idea. A free one from Travis on YouTube.
Hi, Travis.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen someone from Nebraska propose a bill on pregame handshakes or pregame meetings at midfield. Is prayer legal?
What's her name who doesn't want you to drink beer or she's on it. Don't worry.
She's
a regent, I know, but
Kathy.
Kathy's got power.
Kathy.
She's typing up a letter on her typewriter right
so
now.
would you be now? It's such a bind, I think, for people because they didn't shake hands, and people were defending that.
Mm-hmm. Just because it was Nebraska.
But we love sportsmanship in this state. We want to represent sportsmanship.
We applaud the other team. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
So what would the bill say? Would it say you are not required by law to shake hands before the game?
A real bind for the blue hairs, isn't it?
Or would it say you must shake hands before the game? Otherwise, each person who does not shake hands gets a felony. Gets popped. They'll have a cop standing right there. We know they got them.
They're right there.
They are there. You see the body cam footage? You can check the body cam footage and make sure. You know, those TV cameras might be playing tricks on you, but you get the body cam footage. It's all there. That was a wild like 4 minutes yesterday watching the body cam footage of the Ohio State of the cops at the Ohio State Michigan game. Just like, because watching it on TV obviously was a wild experience, and here comes the flag, and you kind of see that out of the corner a little bit, and I mean, every like 15 seconds, and you felt like you sort of had it diffused, there was just another mini fight that broke out, a mini skirmish that broke out. Did you watch it? Did you watch?
No,
oh, it's like I wouldn't tell you that it's like super worth your time, but if you have 4 minutes, it's kind of fun to follow it from that perspective.
All right,
kind of fun to follow it from that perspective. But now there's a law being introduced, a bill being introduced, so it definitely won't happen again.
Good use of time, everyone, and taxpayer money, of course.
So the question now is, what will others do to dunk on this, right? Like, will other teams start bringing flags to plant like on the 25-yard line? You know, like I said, will they bring a drill to drill a hole in the field and then the flag will actually stand up? There's got to be some way the next time Ohio State loses at their home stadium that this will be made fun of and this will be referenced in some way, shape, or form. But we won't know, and we'll probably all forget about this. And
very quickly.
I don't know. Maybe by the end of the day.
It's possible.
By the end of the day today. All right, Nebraska yesterday, they said, I have an announcement. I have something that I have to say. John Butler has been promoted. He has been named Nebraska's defensive coordinator. He was the defensive backs coach, and then he was the interim defensive coordinator, and now he is the coordinator. Creed Bratton is manager. Butler, according to the release, joined the Nebraska staff in July as a secondary coach and has 30 years of coaching experience, including 20 in college football. And people say he has no experience. He can't coach. He has no experience.
Who even is he?
So, as we've gathered over the last several days here, it doesn't feel like people love this. I guess maybe that's my question to you right away. How do we feel about this? Because I told you that it was going to happen. I've been telling you like daily that it's going to happen for like the last couple weeks.
You got to listen to my man, Silver.
It's like I kind of think they're just going to elevate Butler. I kind of think they're just going to elevate Butler. Well, if they haven't elevated, well, I wouldn't really like it if they elevated Butler. I mean, if they were going to elevate Butler, why didn't they just elevate Butler? All right, it's like I think they're going to elevate Butler.
Why don't they do a national search that costs $12 million and interview
Get the lawyers involved.
the best people to ever coordinate a defense?
They could have brought in Bill Belichick.
They could have.
He was available.
He was willing.
He
loves college co-eds.
He was available. So this needs to be taken in context. Nebraska also reportedly moving toward bringing in Phil Snow on a more full-time basis as the associate head coach. And a reminder here that needs to be said, Nebraska and any other program can hire as many coaches as they'd like to at this point. So it doesn't have to fit like perfectly into these puzzle pieces, but you'll still have your main coaches and then your coordinators. And then
but he's so old, Connor.
Yep, there's that piece of it. And then people are still wondering, well, why isn't Ed Foley gone yet? Once again, it's December 11th. Just hang tight for a little while. Nebraska also moving toward hiring Terry Braden, who has been the assistant.
Creed Bratton?
Another Creed Bratton reference. Terry Braden, the assistant defensive line coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now the defensive line coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. You know, when
does Chris Jones have any eligibility?
So that's it. I was going to say that when people bring in, we bring in coaches, and it's hard to know. One thing that I'd be curious about is like, what's the connection here? And the best thing that I think anybody else can come up with right now, like where they found this guy, obviously he's a coach for the Chiefs, but because usually in coaching circles, there's a connection somewhere. Well, Dave Merritt, who is Dawson Merritt's dad, is a coach in the Kansas City Chiefs. Dawson Merritt now going to play at Nebraska, comes highly recommended by him. So there's that piece of it. So I wonder if that's it or if there's somewhere else along the way in Terry Braden's coaching journey that he crossed paths with somebody else on the staff or involved with Nebraska football. So first of all, it's a pretty big reshuffle now. Nebraska has a new wide receiver coach. Nebraska has a new offensive coordinator. They have a new defensive coordinator. They have a new defensive line coach. They have a new outside linebackers coach. And I would imagine Butler will kind of continue to be the secondaries guy, but we'll see what Nebraska sort of does there. Like, I don't envision Butler as this kind of walk around, in defensive coordinator in the same way that Holgorsen is with the offense, right? How have we categorized it with Holgorsen? Characterized it. It has been, I think what Matt Rule did with Dana was he gave him the keys to the offense and he says, go, do what you need to do. Make this thing better. Fix it. And he has been given the latitude to be able to make hires, to be able to bring in personnel or bring in the people that bring in the personnel, right? And it's his, right? He has ownership of it. I don't think that's the case with Butler. I do not think that's the case with Butler. And once again, I think you also have to put it in the context of maybe Nebraska did look around out there a little bit for some other guys that they would bring in, and Matt Rule would just hand this person the keys because they have an outstanding resume and all these other things, and maybe they didn't get the bites that they wanted to get on that, or as many bites as they wanted to get. Like, maybe that's a possibility here.
Everyone was interested.
But if you weren't going to go that way, and if you couldn't go that way, then I don't like, this is a situation that kind of makes sense to me. Like I said, you gave the offensive keys to Holgorsen, and I don't really, I guess maybe the holdup here is I don't know who he gave the keys to on defense. We'll find out more about this in the coming days. Rule will talk on Thursday, and then he'll do, I think, another or maybe two more Pinstripe Bowl press conferences.
Wow.
And then they'll talk again before they leave at the end of next week. And then they'll talk in New York when they get. So we'll be hearing from Rule quite a bit over the next 3 weeks before the game. Is it Phil Snow?
Who has the keys?
It seems like Phil Snow is here and was here throughout the back end of last year when he and Holgorsen came in at the same time. And we have a pretty good idea that didn't necessarily rub Tony White the right way. Tony White wanted the keys, right? Tony White was ready to do that.
Hey, they're going to make me a head coach somewhere. The other schools want to make me a head coach. Why is that not enough for you to give me control of my unit that is performing well?
And I think that's some of the reason why Tony White's not here anymore, obviously, but when you come into Matt Rule's program as a defensive coach, there seems to be kind of this understanding that Matt Rule's always going to have his hand in the cookie jar, right? Like Matt Rule defense, handshake meme. But he knew that he had to bring in somebody that he trusts completely and fully to sort of be the head coach of the defense. And once again, this is just sort of speculation on how the puzzle pieces fit together. But Phil Snow is a long time trusted Rule advisor. Long time. And so you bring that guy in at the end of last year, and now you elevate him to a more permanent position, and then you elevate a coordinator who doesn't have a whole lot of experience coordinating Power 5 defense. And this is something that he wants to do, and he can sort of be that person under the tutelage of Rule and Snow.
He did coordinate a Bill O'Brien defense.
That's right, 2013.
Just interesting wrinkle at the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, Bill O'Brien was asked about John Butler yesterday at the Pinstripe Bowl press conference. I loved the Pinstripe Bowl press conference.
You did. You were grinding that tape.
In case you couldn't tell. So could they have gotten... So, once again, I don't think you can look at this in the sense of, well, they just hired Butler, and that's their defensive coordinator, and that was the best thing. They
didn't even look.
It has to... you have to put it in context of the other things that they've done. And I think Phil Snow is a big part of this. Could they have gotten better and more accomplished at the defensive coordinator position 1-for-1? Yes. Or could they have tried? Yes. I don't know if they could have gotten it, because then you actually have to do it, right? I do wonder how much interest there was in it, and what they actually tried to shoot for before coming back to this plan, which seems like a bit of a fallback safety net. Hey, we always got Butler here, and then we got Phil sitting around, and he could sort of be the walk around guy, a little bit like that. That's the context in which it seems like it happened to me. That's just looking from the outside looking in. But I anytime I said it over the last couple of weeks, I was like, I think they're going to elevate Butler. People will be like, "Are we sure? That's such a good idea." I don't know. The defensive backs were great this year, and it just seemed like it wasn't. It didn't really work back there. Different guys for different situations, and once again, put it in the context of what else is there on the rest of the staff. It seems like it seems like it makes sense to me. I don't know if it'll work. But it's an interesting setup. And once again, why Rule always says we're going to be good at defense. We're always going to be good at defense. We're a Matt Rule coach team. We're going to be good at defense. Matt Rule. It's because he's always going to have a hand in it. It's going to be his defense. What Rule did with the offense was that he walked away from it, and he gave it to one of the best offensive minds that there is. What he did with the defense is a little bit different. And he set himself up with guys that he obviously trusts, Phil Snow being the right-hand man on this, and then Butler, who wants to build a resume and wants to coordinate defense and do all these things. It's not like he's 30 years old. He's been around for a long time.
Phil Snow, famously old.
Yeah, you're right, but I'm talking about Butler.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's not like he's 30. It's not like he's 27.
It's not a spring chicken.
No, he's 52, I think, somewhere around there.
51.
He's been around for a while now. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't mind Nebraska putting him into this situation with the right guardrails around him. But I know people look at it and they say, that guy, defensive coordinator, he's never really done it before. He's never had success. He doesn't have a resume. He hasn't done this before. But I don't think that's the right, it's not a 1-for-1. Tony White was different. right? Tony White had a bit of a resume to him.
Mhm.
And then obviously, I think Tony White probably exceeded expectations at Nebraska as well. So don't forget about that as a possibility as well. It is possible that people could exceed expectations. I know it doesn't seem
At Nebraska?
Yeah, it's not usually that common around here, but it does happen.
Maybe Matt Rule can shift into that CEO role if he gives the keys to Dana on offense, and on defense, he's got a couple of guys he trusts. The two of you, in some form or fashion, figure it out. Keep it going. I'm gonna check in on you.
I'm gonna be
a
here
bunch, but
this is and Rule definitely still has opinion. He has opinions on. I have an opinion on
Matt Rule loves that game.
What kind? I mean, he said a couple weeks ago. He said, I like this defense. We're gonna keep doing this. So going out and hiring someone from the outside who he doesn't know, who he doesn't trust, who brings a different scheme to the table and could throw off the whole math equation of your football team. It's not, in his mind, it wasn't worth it. I don't know that that's 100% like, is it not worth it? I don't know. That's what we're sort of arguing about right now. But that's what people are arguing with me about. So Zach, I always get emails from Zach. He's been very against this. Nebraska, he was the one who did the all caps email. Nebraska is not a place where you hire first. It's not a training ground, right?
Okay.
So Zach emails in.
I remember that. Hi, Zach.
LOL, defending the Butler DC hire with the Snow hire. Butler was so unqualified for this position, and Rule knows it, that he also hired another senior citizen to come in and babysit Butler and hold his hands rather than hiring a defensive coordinator that is so qualified that he can hand the keys to completely, like he did with Dana on offense. If honestly, I don't I don't think there's anything in there that's particularly wrong. I think he probably oversold the interest to it a little bit. I think
almost assuredly, right?
I
don't think they were putting out a lot of feelers.
Right. So once again, it's exactly what I just explained. Are we going to go out and let's just say, all right, we're going to make a change in defensive coordinator. I would love to bring in somebody 1-for-1 and do just like I did with Dana and give him the keys. In order to do that, you need somebody who's bona fide, like Dana Holgorsen. You need the Dana Holgorsen of defense.
Yeah.
Whoever that is, they identify, right? Okay, let's identify 3 or 4 guys that we can go out and potentially, get at this moment. And maybe they just didn't get as much interest as they thought they were going to, or they couldn't, pry them away, or those conversations were limited, whatever. And so they put this guy and these people in this position under different pretenses than they would have if it was a guy with this super established resume, rising star. This guy is going to be really good, and he's right. So you put the guys in the position that you have in position to be successful. That's all. I like that. I don't know if I prefer it to going out and getting a star, but once again, you're limited to what you can get. It's a great idea for Nebraska to go out and get every 5-star wide receiver in the transfer portal. Hey, go out and get that guy. Go out and get
go get him.
Ryan Williams. He's going to go into the portal.
Just pay him $12 million.
Just go out and get him. It's a little easier said than done. It's a little easier said than done. You have to have interest. There has to be a connection a lot of the times. We know what Rule's sort of web of influence is. He goes to the guys he goes to. And so I'd rather him go to a guy that he trusts than than go outside of the established guys, go further down his list, and then hand the keys to that person who is an unknown. I'm okay with Rule having his hand in the cookie jar on defense. That's what I'm saying. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with it on offense, and he got rid of him on offense. He's like, I'm out.
That's how hiring works.
He's like, close it up.
In a lot of places, right? Not just in sports, but at your office. Oh, how'd that person get the job? Oh, well, they're buddies with the boss.
They knew somebody.
Also,
they come well recommended.
That senior citizen, Phil Snow, is actually younger than Bill Belichick, a name many many listeners have said Nebraska should just go get to be Matt Rule's defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I guess that's my other question. Like, who did you want?
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's fine. Give me some names.
If you want to be the star, if you want to play the star bleeper game.
Yeah, because I don't know. Like I don't operate like that because I don't think about fantasy football coach hiring. I know a lot of people love to think about fantasy. So maybe you have a list. Send me your list
in your desk drawer.
Yeah, maybe you have a list. Send me your list of the best defensive coordinators around the country, and then and also know that if you bring that guy in, and if it actually does work, and you're able to pry him out of whatever sitting Power 5 job he has right now, that you run the risk of it not working because the math doesn't work. It doesn't fit. The equation gets thrown off, right? Maybe they're a defense that, I guess a lot of that is sort of based on how many takeaways you get and stuff like that. Like, are you able to play complementary football with this new person who, and you're trying to learn on the fly? That Rule's a big year next year, guys.
Huge.
So he's betting on Dana Holgorsen on offense. And I think what he's doing here is he's effectively betting on himself on defense. And I think it's a fine bet. I think it's the dice are sort of loaded in your favor. The die are loaded in your favor.
It's an interesting play for sure. So somewhat unconventional, right? You don't do the big search.
Jimmy writes in.
Hi, Jimmy.
Give me a Phil Parker person. Give me a Brent Venables person. Okay. Phil Parker has been the defensive coordinator at Iowa for a billion years and is not leaving. And Brent Venables is the head coach at Oklahoma.
You could maybe ask, hey, Oklahoma, you can push this guy out? Because we'll take him if you push him out.
Mitchell writes in.
Hi, Mitchell.
I guess this is a good example. He says, at least there wasn't a Bob Diaco situation. It's a great point. Like, not saying they all have to go this way, but think about what they did after 2016. The defense was stinky at the end of the year. The defensive coordinator that Mike Riley knew and loved said that Iowa's practices must be like a bloodbath, and they got beat 40-10, and they ended the season in a really, really sour way.
How many vomits per practice?
I mean, he thought highly. He thought highly of them. And he got fired, and they brought in this rising up-and-comer. He had coordinated national championship caliber defenses at Notre Dame, been the head coach at UConn, was looking to get back into the game. By all accounts, by all that you look at on the resume, a good to great defensive coordinator on paper. Math didn't work. He wanted to come in, and the keys were given to him, right? The keys were given to him. And so he had to break down and build back up, attempt to build back up, didn't have near enough time to do so, the defense that he was running. Bob Diaco's point that entire time, even though it was a weirdo, but if you were listening to what he was saying, it was, we need more time. We could do this, but we need more time. I don't know if that's true either, but that was his point. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good example. You don't hire coordinators based on resume exclusively if you don't know the guy, if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And like I said, easier said than done too, because I don't know what kind of interest there was. Maybe we'll can get more on that from Mitch Sherman, who's coming up on the show.
He's smart.
In just a minute. Doc writes in.
What's up, Doc?
Says this situation is completely different than Bob Diaco's situation. Rule basically hired his boss. Yeah. But I'm just saying 1-for-1 defensive coordinator. That whole thing. Obviously, there were some other factors at play with the hiring of Diaco. Michael.
Just such a good dresser. Hi, Michael.
Michael writes in. Connor, I think what the fans are trying to convey is that they are tired of a coach being faithful to his guys. Snow was with Rule from Temple all the way through Carolina. We saw what happened with Rule being faithful to the end with Sat. We saw it with Frost. I think what they want is a coach who hires a guy with zero ties to him in the past to try a new, bolder move. Okay, well, he did that.
On offense? Is that what you mean?
Yes!
Okay, yeah.
Yes! He did that!
Do it again.
I don't think Marcus Satterfield's going to be here next year. And if he is, he's going to be the tight ends coach, and he won't be calling plays
for $1.4 million.
For $1 million. He did that. Matt Rule's actually good at coaching defense. I want that. Matt Rule's defenses have been good, right? So I kind of trust him. I don't trust him that much on offense, and he's made moves according to that. Yes, so in order for everybody to be happy, he has to change everybody out. Everyone has to be different, and he has to get 40 guys that he doesn't know. That's just asinine. It's crazy. That is ridiculous. That would never happen in any realm of coaching anywhere. That would never happen.